They say fear is a lack of understanding. If only we could understand it all, would we know no fear? Hello guys, Bernard here to tell you a little story about this mask I created. No, I'm not wearing the normal Akatsuki drip. I won't be wearing it in every video, so get used to it. I might wear a t-shirt or a straight up pajamas. Either way, it's of no concern to you. To the story. Imagine little teenage Bernard in middle school. A little incredibly cringe, pizza face, but still someone people could talk to for some reason. Speaking of pizza, a little game that takes place at a pizzeria comes out during the early teenage years of little Bernard, and it scared the shit out of him. Yeah, back when this game first came out, I couldn't stand the sight of these animatronics, the sound of the jump scare, or music, or even the simple thought of them. Somehow thinking about these scary ass niggas ruined the taste of pizza sometimes for me, and I never lose the appetite for a good pizza, let me tell you. Now, you guys don't know it, but I have a very active imagination. Even back when I hardly knew anything about the lore and actual descriptions used in the games and books, I already could just look at them and imagine the atmosphere they would be in, the feel of their synthetic fur, and especially the smell that would come from them. Whenever I was under certain conditions, I don't know what those conditions were, but whenever I was under them, I literally got the smell of this imaginary place in my nose, and if I was eating pizza, it automatically tasted significantly worse. Not sure why all this happened to me, but it did. So in other words, bro, that game traumatized me, bro. It was to the point where I had trouble going to sleep and junk. These things scared me to my core, bro. Excluding some real life stuff, nothing has startled me that much since. Nothing until FNAF 4, that is. I remember when FNAF 2 came out and it only boosted my fear of everything FNAF. FNAF 3 came out and it made my imagination run even wilder with dark scenarios being attacked by these overpowering ass niggas. Though it did add Springtrap, who I found significantly less scary than the intact animatronics. Of course, while these games are coming out, keeping that franchise relevant for a whole year or two, all people can talk about is FNAF. All the content on YouTube is all about FNAF, and everyone at school who was even slightly a nerd was into the frightening franchise. It was impossible to escape, and all I could do was try my best to repress the thought of it all. Like I said, FNAF 1 was the scariest thing ever to me until FNAF 4, and when I first started seeing them scary ass designs on the internet, let me tell you, I was not ready. I literally stayed under my sheets on my phone to cloud out the phantom sights of them in the dark. Damn sleep paralysis inducing ass creatures. Had to stay up for the bulk of the night sometimes because I couldn't shake the thought of them lurking in the dark outside of my sheets. Even the main menu was enough to send my mind into a horrified frenzy. I don't know, something about the lone house on top of a hill with a demonically red sky in the background makes me want to stay away from that house at all costs. Especially when I know there are extra scary animatronics that want to eat children inside. And while some of you might make fun of little Bernard for this, saying he's afraid of the dark, I wasn't afraid of the dark. I was only afraid of the big machine coming to stuff me into another big machine, or in FNAF 4's case, chomping my head off. I was beyond traumatized by this point in case you couldn't tell. Now you might be wondering how I ever got over this fear of FNAF. That came a lot later. In the meantime, however, i.e. the end of middle school, all I needed was to see the animatronics being overpowered to give me a sense of security and power over the thoughts that plagued my mind. What did I see? It's gotta be the most embarrassing part of the video, not gonna lie. I saw Mr. Yo Mama himself, Brody, beating the mess out of them. I remember the specific scene of him in the hallway beating Bonnie and Chica down. The channel parodied them, showing them puking gears or something. Everything that wasn't Brody beating them up is pretty foggy in my mind, but that's besides the point. The point being that now that I had an image of the machines being overpowered, I could just think of that effectively using it as a metaphorical shield against them overpowering me. For years, I didn't even think about FNAF. All those high school years, the thought of a mechanical bear or his fellow fiends failed to cross my mind even once, I think. I had heard of FNAF 5, but when seeing how non-frightening the animatronics were in that game, I saw I had nothing to fear anymore and moved on with my life. I moved on from the age of FNAF, the age of middle school. without seeing a single Markiplier video on it or playing a single game for myself, and I lived well since. Until a year ago today, when Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach came out. FNAF was back in full force. Markiplier was making Let's Plays again, FNAF memes were more prominent than ever, and most importantly, the night terrors were creeping back. This time they weren't anywhere near as big as a problem, probably because of the lack of horror in the glam rock designs. I was looking at memes without fear and even started looking at the playthrough of the game from Markiplier, going as far as to tune into each episode each time they came out. And yes, this would be the first time I watched Markiplier do anything. At this point I was wondering if it was ever as scary as my mind was making it up to be. So, against my better judgment, I went back to Markiplier's first FNAF video, which I had never bothered viewing until that point. I never really found Foxy's jump scare scary, and I looked away on any other chances for a jump scare, which I think there's only one other one in that first video. So I go to the second video and I'm still looking away from jump scares. The bottom line is, yes, the shit was still very scary. But at this point I had just finished my first semester of college, so I thought to myself, damn, why am I still scared of this stuff that scared me in middle school? Then I thought about a quote I heard somewhere saying, fear is a lack of understanding. And no, I'm not thinking of the J. Cole song, Once an Addict. I specifically heard this quote somewhere, I just don't remember where. So with this mindset, I started getting into the lore, beginning to watch MatPat's videos on the series to get what all the buzz was about when it comes to the lore. Eventually, I came to a basic understanding and consumed a lot more FNAF content in general from there. Slowly, I grow less and less fearful of the bear, bunny, chicken, and fox, and even slower, I start to become a fan. You guys might have been able to tell in my anime tier list video that I'm a huge fan of Kirby, but if you couldn't, now you know. I love me some Kirby, not gonna lie, and part of the appeal of that franchise is the deep, convoluted lore of the universe. So when I see that FNAF has some of the most confusing lore in recent gaming history, you best believe I was down to get into it, which, in turn, would only increase my knowledge of the Ookie Spooky Pizzeria, so it's a win-win. I start really getting into the lore, secrets, and the fanbase of the Pizzaplex to the point that I'm able to make my own headcanon theory of the story to this confusing franchise.
Now I will tell you a story.
So these dudes, Henry and William Athens, start a company called Fazbear Entertainment. Henry's got the brains and William's got something in his back pocket. Also, I mentioned William's last name because he has a family collectively known as the Aftons, and that whole family is important to this lore. They succeed in bringing joy to families everywhere around the area of the single location. Eventually, they added special animatronics with spring lock capabilities to the stage so an employee or them could hop inside and walk around in the suits. These suits were a wonderful success as well, giving them enough money to open a sister location called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This is the location with the original 4 characters, albeit not with the designs that we come to know in the first game, while the actual original place had Fredbear and Spring Bonnie only. This new sister location had separate Springlock suits for the original 2 characters there for William to get into and go on a murdering spree with, though they did have their own separate stage to cover it up, I suppose. Not that this is too important, but the first victim's soul took control of Chica, where I assume her body was also placed by William. The rest of the souls took control of the suits their corpses were placed into. When parents started asking where their children went, law enforcement that were so bad they couldn't find evidence to prosecute William showed up and left without arresting anybody for the missing children. The current sister location closes soon after. Next, William makes the actual sister location we know about with the sole purpose of killing children without doing it himself. He warns his daughter not to go near them, or more specifically, Circus Baby, but like the ignorant child she is, she constantly goes near it, and when she's alone with Circus Baby, this saddens and angers William, and in a fit of rage, he kills his partner and business's daughter, Emily. He manages to get her out of the Pizzaplex when the puppet guard is closed off from protecting her. While everyone is having fun inside, the little girl is being brutally murdered outside, and her body is being dumped near the trash like yesterday's garbage. Truly horrific. Now with his own daughter dead and 2 sons he wants to keep alive, William crafts a plan to keep his younger son away from any of the buildings. I don't like the idea of sci-fi chips that change brainwaves or something being in this already confusing horror story that takes place in the 80s and 90s, so I'm gonna change something up a little bit, to make it make more sense, of course. William's plan is to put the animatronics in the house in an attempt to scare Evan with them at night. Evan is his youngest son, by the way. Little does he know, Evan has an overactive imagination and already has a certain fear of his father's creations. So when he sees them at night, he sees them as terrifying beasts, some hardly reminiscent of what they actually look like. He attempts to defend himself from these animatronics through the most active nights of his life, all while his father watches him from a camera. Much like his sister, however, Evan remains stubborn and ignorant to any warnings about going to his father's company, from his mind or otherwise. He still goes to the original diner, which obviously upsets his suspicious father, who would notice his older son, Michael, scaring Evan further. He doesn't do anything about it though, hoping Micah will traumatize the crying child even more so that he eventually decides not to go to any of his locations. Even still, for reasons beyond me, Evan still goes to the diners. Little does he know though, Micah would try to be the worst brother he possibly could one day in 1983, or 87 if you ignore the retcons. So on the day of the infamous bite of 83, Michael took his traumatized brother and shoved him into the mouth of Fredbear. Cue the bite of 87 joke real quick. Evan dies soon after that, but not before experiencing even worse nightmares at the hands of a nightmare Fredbear and a creature of the dark in his own mind known as just Nightmare, until he died a couple days later. His father promises to put him back together, but skips some time and he ends up in a position arguably just as bad, if not even worse than his second son. Getting his comeuppance when the dramatic irony of his own spring-lock technology made to disguise himself as mere children killed him with the souls of those who died in his wake, watching him suffer his deservedly gruesome demise. Not long after that, I assume Michael is told to work at the sister location of Circus Baby and Fiends. So he does, and he does everything Circus Baby tells him to. Which gets his inside scoops, so Circus Baby and every other conscious machine in the building can live as the amalgamation known as Ennard inside Michael's vacant body. They use his body until it becomes so broken as a rotting corpse that they're forced to flee from it into the sewer. Michael, however, won't die and continues to live on as a purple zombie thing with no guts. The scene with Michael speaking about finding his dad makes me want to craft an entirely new whack-ass theory, but that'd be too much work. So moving on, some years later, after all the locations are shut down, a haunted house attraction about the animatronics is opened, and they hire the smelliest, most grotesque person they could possibly find to act as a security guard. Michael works as a security guard in hopes of putting his father's miserable life to an end once and for all. Without getting into much detail, Michael burns down the building and fails to kill Springtrap, or the puppet apparently. After another hiatus, Henry and Michael work together to open a new restaurant, acting as an innocent way to get all the leftover animatronics in one place. The animatronics being Scrap Baby, Scrap Trap, Molten Freddy, and the puppet, who is put in a bear called Lefty. I say Henry and Michael work together, but really Michael is kept in the dark and he just works out of curiosity, I assume. When Saturday hits, Henry explains through an audio recording to his employee what this little business venture was really about. And as the fire burns the souls out of the machines, Michael sits back, feeling accomplished for having finally put an end to this little horror tale. After that, William is put in his own personal hell, and Michael as well, if you want to say so. I personally think that we play as Michael on easier nights, like when we're first starting to play the game, and more difficult nights, or any night when that creepy ass face appears, or William struggling to survive against his own creations. So yeah, that's my light demo anti-sci-fi theory. I'm not going to go into anything after FNAF 7 because FNAF 6 was the second best ending to me, and seeing that bastard William in his own personal hell is the perfect epilogue. Obviously, if you want an actual attempt to theorize this unnecessarily complicated timeline, there are plenty of videos online that you can find for yourself. I'll link 2 of my favorites in the description. Back to my fear, after some extra spooky nights of imagining Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy being in my room, I pretty much got over my fear of the franchise. I started playing the games with Ultimate Custom Night because I saw it was free and it looked really simple, then I eventually moved on to Pizzeria Simulator. Though for a moment my fear was reinstated after I played a night of FNAF 4 over a friend's house. My reaction to my first jump scare in that game was like Markiplier's first reaction to his first jump scare in that game, mixed with any reaction from Blast One HD. I was acting like Mark II, saying the first night would be easy after getting some confidence and not seeing any animatronics when it was 3 a.m. But also just like Markiplier, Chica just had to prove me wrong and come out in the dark with no breathing warning. Now when I was playing this, it was on an Xbox, and that nigga decided to turn the volume all the way up in the headphones and have it loud on the TV as well. So all I could hear was the loud ass ambience, and he wouldn't turn the TV down whenever I asked. So you can trust me when I say there was no breathing. Of course, the high volume only made the jump even more scary. Chica literally had me jump off my feet and land on the bed after I threw the controller and headphones off my head while screaming at the top of my lungs all at the same time. But after the aftermath of that, I was good, even being a fan to the point of making this. Do you expect the story about how I crafted it? I looked it up and based it off a video. It's a mask, it's not that deep. So the lesson of the story is that maybe we truly do fear what we don't understand. Maybe if we learned about our fears before we know it, we may just run out of things to fear. I mean, how else did you get over your fear of lightning as a kid? Or storms in general? Thank you guys for watching. I really have to rush this video. I literally made the script like on the last day of last month, trying to rush it out so I can put it out today, just because today is the day that FNAF Security Breach came out last year. If you enjoyed it, subscribe, and let me know in the comments or something. Just let me know if I should play FNAF 5 or just skip to FNAF 4, because I'm not gonna lie, I look at FNAF 5 and honestly, I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it, to be honest with you. I'm playing the series backwards, by the way. That's why I'm asking. Not sure if I should do it, like, I don't know if I should be a completionist or not. So let me know if I should be a completionist or not. Tell me if I should. I already beat FNAF, or I played FNAF 7, and I beat multiple endings on FNAF 6, so yeah, I'm ready to move on. Just don't know which one to go to. I don't really feel like going to a FNAF 5, what can I say? I'm streaming on Twitch. You should see a link somewhere in the video or the description, I don't know. I'm thinking about moving to YouTube. Also, let me know if I should stream on YouTube, because honestly, it looks like a better platform to stream on overall. Sweet dreams!
And always remember to stay ambitious.